Cool. All right, Mo, if you
Shall
want
we
to go
start?
ahead and kick us off,
Yeah.
I'll just keep monitoring the waiting room and letting people in as you get moving, but go ahead and kick us off here.
All right. Thank you so much. So congratulations, everyone, and welcome to Vanderbilt. My name is Mo. I'm a first-year MBA candidate and Dean's Scholar here, and also a campus visit coordinator / MBA recruitment ambassador. So welcome to the Owen 1-1 session. And I have with me Kevin from second year.
Hey, everyone. Yeah, my name's Kevin Talley. I'm a second year here at Vanderbilt. I'll be graduating in a few short weeks. Unfortunately, I'll be leaving the Owen community, but I want to say congrats to all of you for being admitted, and I know it's a big effort to join an MBA program. So happy you all made that big step.
All right. So shall we move on?
Go for it.
Again, just for the record, this session is getting recorded and it will be shared later on after this session. So this is about how you will make Nashville as your home, as I have been for the past 10 months. So here we go. So as we have introduced ourselves, so in this session, we'll be talking about the housing situation and neighborhoods in Nashville, how you would set up your utilities. So once you get your list signed on, and then after we'll talk about how to move around, the transportation, what are the grocery shopping opportunities or other shopping needs you might have in Nashville, then how would you handle personal finance and documentation? This is especially for the international students like myself. And then how would you get medical care as a Vanderbilt student? And finally, how to find your community and make it really your home for the next 2 years at least. So first of all, about housing and neighborhoods, since Kevin has been in the United States longer than I have, Kevin, would you like to take this up, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Mo. So basically, Nashville is such a growing city. There's new little pockets that are popping up every day with new apartment complexes and housing options. But what we've tried to do is distill some of this information into kind of the major areas where most students live and how they get to campus. So some of the places we'll discuss would be Midtown, Hillsborough, Edge Hill, the Gulch, and South Broadway. As you can see from the top left graph on your screen, Midtown is going to be the most highly densely populated area of Owen students. It's the most walkable, has the most resource in terms of nightlife, grocery shopping, restaurants. Anything you really need is within a walking distance. So it's highly favorable for a lot of students just for the ease of access, especially if having a car is something you're unsure about. This is a place where you'll basically be able to manage most of what your day-to-day life by walking. Additionally, in terms of like the size of units and living situation for most students, a lot of people live on their own. They might be coming here with a spouse or a family, or they might look for a roommate, but I'd say the vast majority are going to be in single unit properties. And so that's either through a studio apartment or a 1-bedroom apartment. And obviously one of the major considerations here is the cost of living. So those 1-bedrooms are kind of the sweet spot for most people. A little bit more space, availability for working from home is pretty essential for most people, given that you'll be on a lot of Zoom meetings throughout the evenings and over weekends. So people just like having a little bit of extra space to kind of spread out in their unit. And then I would also go over to the right-hand side of your screen to talk a little bit more about the pricing. So because there's so many different options for you in terms of whether you have a roommate or if you're with a family or by yourself or where you're living, the price fluctuates quite widely. But when you're looking at either a studio or a 1-bedroom apartment, you're going to be estimate in that range of 1,750 US dollars to about 2,000 US dollars per month. So just to start getting your head wrapped around some of the budgeting constraints that you'll have. Again, if that's outside your price range, a lot of people do have roommates. So sharing the cost of rent is a very common thing here in Nashville for especially a lot of our students who are on a budget and trying to maximize every dollar that they spend. So when you get to that, you're looking at some of those 2-bedroom unit options just below 3,000 US dollars. That helps kind of break it up to get you to more of a monthly spend by individual at around anywhere from $1,250 to $1,500. So that becomes a little bit more of a cost savings for everybody. And Mo, if you want to go to the next slide. So here, I know I mentioned a few of these areas to live, but here's just geographically where they're going to be located. So if you look at the map where it says Midtown, you see that small black circle with the V in it. That's the location of our Owen building. So that's where all of your classes are going to be held. So to give you just a frame of reference from where some of these other locations are, Midtown, as I mentioned, the most favored area for a lot of students to live in, just given its geographic location to campus, easy to walk or use an electric scooter or bike. Again, as we mentioned previously, a lot of restaurants and shops are available here as well. Anything you really need can be found within the Midtown circle that you're looking at. If you look at Edge Hill, that's actually where I live. So that's a roughly 10-minute walk for me, 10 to 15 minutes. I walk a little bit faster, so I get to class pretty quickly, but I've never once driven to campus. And something to note is if you are planning to drive to campus, you do need to buy a parking pass, which I think is almost $400 or $500 for the year. So an additional expense in addition to having a car if you plan to drive to campus when you move a bit further outside the city. But Edge Hill, it's a lot more of a young family town area. So you'll have a lot more houses or townhomes, a lot more kids running around, younger adults who are starting their families. So a little bit more of a family atmosphere as opposed to Midtown, which would have more apartment buildings, people our age, who are single or newly in a relationship, a little bit more of a nightlife feel. So two very different vibes in the city. And even though they're so close to one another, it's definitely a different atmosphere depending on the type of location you're looking to live in. So South Broadway and the Gulch, I would say, resemble the kind of atmosphere that Midtown has as well. So that would be a little bit more upscale kind of living, nicer restaurants, lots of bars to go to, a lot of nightlife. So again, much more the young adult moving to a new city, looking to have fun and enjoy your time there atmosphere. But in contrast, Hillsborough West End, which you see at the bottom left of this map, again, is going to be a little bit more family oriented. They do have a lot more apartment complexes than Edge Hill would have, but a good mix of apartment buildings and single unit homes, maybe a yard if you have a few dogs or animals that you're looking to bring with you to campus or to Nashville, I should say. So again, a little bit more of a subdued atmosphere, a little more casual, much more family friendly in that sense. And so these are four that we've just highlighted for you to get your bearings, again, around where campus is located. But as you see on the map, there's a lot more space further outside of campus where people have lived. So if you just jump across the river, kind of following the line connecting Sobro and the Gulch off to the right, that would be just up north of the river there. That would be East Nashville. So that's going to be about a 10 to 15 minute drive to campus. And again, that's to get some breath of fresh air outside of the city environment, a lot more residential area, lots to do, lots of walking distance, but much more like single unit houses with yards and like elementary school sidewalks where you have a lot of families walking around town. So just kind of looking at the atmosphere you're trying to target for your time in Nashville. There are other options outside of these that we've just mentioned, but everything's going to depend on basically what vibe you're looking for, what your budget constraints are, and frankly, if you want to drive to campus or not. So Mo, you can go ahead and go to the next slide here. So just to give some of you a brief overview about how to actually secure your housing, if you've never done this before in the US or have never had to rent an apartment, basically the process will go like this. You find the location that you want to live in. You can do this online or over email with the apartment manager, but they'll send you an application. There's generally some sort of fee for just filling out the application. And then they'll run an approval check on you to see any past issues that may have been reported about you as an individual. They'll just basically look into, but more times than not, people don't really have an issue getting through this approval process. Once you are approved, you'll pay a security deposit, which is generally 1 to 2 months rent in advance. and then you'll sign your lease. And that will be for a designated amount of time, usually predetermined by the apartment complex. They like to have it be at least for 1 full year before renewing your lease for the following year. But some of this can be up for negotiation as you're going through this process with the apartment manager. And just some things to highlight for you when you're going through this process is that getting out of your lease or breaking a lease, as it's commonly referred to as, it can be difficult because people don't want to lose a tenant, especially if you're a good tenant. So looking at the fine print in your contract will be important. A lot of people might take a short-term lease with an option to go month to month. So for instance, as a second year, I might not have needed the full year lease because I'm leaving after I graduate. But if there's a amount of time I need in between moving out of Nashville, being able to do a month to month would be a better situation for me instead of being locked into several months that I'm not going to be here and I can't break the lease. And that can also negatively affect you in terms of having to pay more fees for breaking your lease. And then also just knowing what facilities are available. I'd say mostly everywhere has a pool. They'll have in-unit washer and dryer. They'll have dishwasher as well. They'll have a gym, speaking strictly to apartment buildings. But just monitoring what your needs are based on what they have will be important, just so you can plan around the rest of your life if you have to find some of those utilities elsewhere. A few more points too, if you're looking to just getting started at where to live, places like Zillow, Zillow, and apartments.com are pretty common online resources for people to monitor what the price is going to be and what availability is looking like. At the very least, it'll give you contact information for who manages the apartment building. And then you can start a conversation by emailing them and just going through that conversation process with them to get more information. If you're not using some more credible sites like a Zillow or an apartments.com, and you're finding this just on your own or like word of mouth, definitely make sure you're asking a lot of questions and ensuring that you're not about to get scammed. I haven't heard of this as an issue from any of my classmates, but there are some bad actors in the world, unfortunately. So just doing your due diligence to make sure that it's a legitimate housing situation and you're also paying fair market value will be important. Finally, and Mo, you could probably touch on this a little bit as we move on, but if you're not a US citizen, actually securing an apartment can be a difficult process because for US citizens, there's a social security number or a credit check that is easily accessible for a lot of these apartment buildings. But if you don't have those US based criteria, you may have to provide additional resources to them. So showing your acceptance letter to Vanderbilt, showing your I-20, potentially even having to give them a bank statement proving that your ability to pay for your housing over the year is legitimate. Those are things that they'll just need as another option aside from doing a credit check or a social security check that a US citizen might have to do. So if they ask for these resources, that's just to ensure basically validity of payment and ability to pay. So don't be alarmed if you see this, but Mo, I don't know if you have anything else you want to add on to that point or what you had to go through for that.
Yeah, to be honest, I felt like as an international, it is particularly difficult to get an apartment, especially the lower end ones, because in those cases, the landlords are not much responsive via email. So what I did is during the office hours, which was like midnight in Bangladesh, I called those landlords a lot of times, and sometimes they would pick up or like left them a voicemail, emailed them as well, and then finally got a reply. And when they understood that I don't have a social security number, it became more difficult, and I had to show bank statements and other documents like visa documents even to ensure that, yes, I am indeed coming, I can't pay and stuff like that. It is very useful if you have a relative or a friend in the US who can vouch for you and act as a co-signer. Then the whole process becomes very, very smooth.
Great. Thanks, Mo. Just in the interest of time, before we move on, I just wanted to highlight the link that you see at the bottom of your screen here, the housing guide and more about moving to Nashville. A very helpful link. That's a Vanderbilt resource for you and should give more insight into the different apartment complexes available and some of the other considerations you'll need to make as you're planning to move. But if you need more information and you're looking to do some research, that's a really good link for you guys to utilize to just get the process started. But with that, I'll hand it back over to you, Mo, so you can go through the rest of our content here.
Right. Thanks, everyone. And yes, just to say this out loud, so all these golden hyperlinks are active. So I have tried to include as much as I can. So you can just click on it and see the Vanderbilt resources that we have. And we have a lot, to be honest. So after you have got in your home, let's set up your utilities, like the electricity connections and stuff. Thing is, if again you are a US citizen, then you just call the electricity service office and they will kind of like get it fixed in your apartment address. But if you are not a US citizen and coming as an international student, what you have to do is go to the electricity office. So this is the address I've put in with all of your documents and your lease copy. And then after they kind of get through your identification procedure and get your evidences, what they'll do is turn on the electricity within a couple of hours. It actually took a couple of less than that. So me and my wife, we went to that office and then waited for about 30-50 minutes. Then when we showed our documents, and then before we could walk back to our apartment, the light was on. And yeah, it was good. But if you have a really good apartment building, a good landlord, then it is even smoother. You don't even have to go to the office. They'll handle it for you. But usual process is this one. And about mobile connection and internet, so there are a lot of places where internet or like is free, but if you are looking to get one, I went to Xfinity. That is kind of the cheapest one I found. And those people, like, plan your time ahead because they take a lot of time, a lot of documents, and be very, very careful with your address. So the way electricity office and even the internet office in here kind of tracks your internet account is through your physical address. If that is wrong, then your, I mean, connections will not be right. I mean, there is a lot of issues to correct that later on. So be very careful with your address and keep all those proof of address documents with you for the next processes. If we move on to transportation, Kevin, can you talk about the local one?
Yeah, happy to. So as I alluded to earlier, Nashville, there's pockets that are walkable where you're living, but if you're looking to, do pretty much any other activities, more likely than not, you'll need your car. Everything's pretty much an Uber ride away, but if especially you like to go on hikes or go out and just get 20 minutes outside the city, availability of things like Ubers and Lyft rides will be a little bit more limited. So bringing your car will likely be something that you'll need. If that's not important to you, it's still very much accessible to get to campus. We have, a litter of electronic bikes and scooters here in the city. So that's always an available option. And quite a few people do use those. Some used it so much my first year that they just went out and bought their own electric scooter to use for second year. So they just didn't have to worry about finding one close by. They just had one all the time. So those are definitely acceptable options. Like I said, I walk to school every single day. So a lot of people I know also walk to school just because of proximity. For the vast majority of people, I'd say walking to and from campus is very common. And then they'll use their car to supplement the other parts of their life. Aside from going out to Broadway or to any other dinners with friends where they'll take an Uber ride, they'll generally go do their grocery shopping with their car, go, pick up people from the airport in their car, all those fun things. So having a car is super useful, but not necessary, because you do have some of these alternative options for you. And if you want to go to the next slide, Mo.
Yeah. So yeah, before we talk about the bus, I would like to share that in some parts of the city, there are bike lanes. So I have used a bike for about a couple of months, but yeah, to be honest, in the highways and in the larger roads, it does not feel safe, but you can always ride an electric scooter on the footpath or pavements. However, I have been a fan of the bus. So the bus is free, and I have been using it very, very much. I use it to go to groceries, electricity office, wherever I need to go. And around Nashville, it's a time consuming but convenient process, I would say. So with your Vanderbilt card, you get to ride the bus for free. So do we have time? We can see the video. I have video hidden here. It's just 91, about like 50 seconds. So I'm going to show it to you. Can you guys see the video?
It's not showing up for me now.
Okay, sorry. Let me share the screen first. Okay.
Yep, got it.
So basically that was it. Thing is about the videos. Give me a minute, sorry. Can you, or I think I have to get it
If you just
on again.
reshare your screen for
Yeah.
the PowerPoint.
All right, so we were. So the thing about bus is that it's very convenient, it's free, but it takes a lot of time, mainly because sometimes when you're going to, let's say, Walmart is about 6 miles from here. And in order to take that, when you set it up in Google Map, you'll see you'll have to change bus one time. So from Owen, you'll take a bus, it will take you to Central, which is the central bus location. And then after that, you'll have to take another bus. So these connections usually take time. Otherwise, it's very reliable and it's on from about 6 a.m. to 12 a.m. in the morning. And about the Commodore card that we have been telling about. So once you have your Yes profile ready, you can just go to the student center. Sarath Student Center, I have put the link and the address in here. You'll just go there and the card office is downstairs. You'll just ask for your card and they'll print it out for you. Just one tip, get your Yes profile photo ready, because in that case, you'll have a good photo on your card. Otherwise, they'll just take a photo on the spot and it might not be so good. Like my wife wasn't happy with her card when she went to get hers. She's a PhD student here. So yeah, after you know how to move around the city, would like to talk about shopping a little bit more. So this one was a fun experience for me when I came in here and I moved around to see what the grocery shops are in here. First, I'd like to talk about Kroger. I know Americans are not that fond of Kroger, I felt like, but this is where I go for get fresh food and vegetables, and it's very affordable. And you may already know Walmart, the cheapest one every day low price, but actually Kroger's fruits and vegetables are cheaper than Walmart. There are a lot of Walmarts and Krogers in Nashville. But for all other stuff, from screwdrivers to any kind of hardware to any kind of food, Walmart is the place to go for me. Whole Foods is a very popular choice for a lot of people, mainly because of natural and organic foods, but I felt like it's a bit expensive. Then there are Trader Joe's, which have very good private label brands. So in here, one thing was new to me, like private label brands are basically the ones that the store brands are. So they have their own brands, and Trader Joe's are very good. There is Publix, there is Aldi, and some of the students that I know who don't have a car don't go to in-person shopping. So they usually order online, which is also an option. Some other shops are KNS World Market. So this is the place for Asians to go, like Vietnamese people, and also a lot of Mexican food are there. So this is where I go to get fresh fish. Like they have a seafood section, they'll cut it in front of you, and it's very nice. Maybe not so clean, but otherwise a lot of options that where we don't get as well. For the South Asians, the place to go is Patel Brothers. So you'll get dal chawal, everything that you need, and a lot of traditional South Asian snacks. For Middle Eastern food and halal meat for the Muslim brothers, we have Zaitun, Nowroz, and Azadi International Food Market. So these three are like side-by-side shops. And to be honest, all these shops that I have talked about, I have been there with the Commodore card and the bus. So I took a large bag with me and went there shopping, but it takes a bit of time, like about 3 hours to do the whole shopping trip. But if you have a car or if you can use your friend's card, that is even helpful. And for other stuff like clothes and gadgets, I have been to Macy's, Target, and Ross. So Macy's is a kind of a discount large supermarket. They have a lot of clothes options. There is a mall close by Vanderbilt, which is called the Green Hills Mall. So you'll find a lot of branded shops there. And there is a larger mall called Opry Mills, which is a bit far away. And for gadgets like laptops, a lot of people try to buy a new laptop when they get here, like especially international students. What I've seen is like during June, keep an eye out for the tax-free weekend or something like that. So in that case, you can buy brand new laptops for like about 10% less. So the tax will not be applied during that, like before the school year starts. So you can just order online and pick it up later when you arrive in Vanderbilt. And there is the Apple store downtown. Some other stuff. So I know it might be a little bit awkward. The weather may not be what you expect. And in here, I have seen that a space heater is a very good purchase. So if you buy a space heater, it will save you some electricity cost, because the central heaters here I felt are too costly, or it's just maybe because I live in a cheap apartment. And then another thing is like the toilet. In case of Middle East or even in Asia, I've seen like people using beaded sprays, and also like in Italy, a lot of parts of the Europe, there are beaded sprays, but America mostly uses toilet paper. So in the toilets that in your apartment, you might not find a beaded spray. But if you need one, you can buy in Amazon. I bought it for about $30, I think, and I could set it up on my own. There are very good manuals. So please don't be disheartened when you don't see a spray in here. Now, this portion is basically for the international students. So when I came in here, I didn't have a bank account, and then also didn't have a credit card, a local one, which is very useful here. And to get a bank account and credit card, you don't actually need a social security number. You can open it right away after you come here. So all you need is your passport as your identification document, your I-20 offer letter, I-94, which is the admission record, which you get after you cross the border. So you take these documents and go to a bank, and they'll open an account for you. Especially, I know for a fact that Chase Bank opens an account. So I opened mine. And if you open an account with Chase Bank with a referral link from a friend, then you get a $200 bonus once you get a direct deposit in your account from your employer or something. So I get that. So ask for a friend for a referral code. It will take a bit of time, but nonetheless, it's very useful. I got my debit card after 3 days of applying. And for credit card, usually for the people who come here without a credit history, the first credit card they get is Discover. It also, if you use a friend's referral, you'll get a $100 bonus on the Discover credit card, and it does not have any charge. So I use it a lot to get regular grocery shopping. Finally, at one point, you'll need to get your social security number. And in order, basically, social security number is kind of the national identification number, I felt, in here in America. So they track all your purchases, all your credit scores, and everything, your benefits that you get from the government, everything is tracked from this number, and it is very important to keep it confidential. So as an international student, Owen has a very good system here. So when you come in here, you cannot get, first of all, you cannot get a social security number if you are not employed here. So what Owen does is gives you employment right away. Just after you come as an international student, you become an orientation assistant. So Owen kind of like books you as an international student worker right away and gives you a work authorization form. With that form, and you can just apply for a social security number, like download the form, take the authorization form from Owen, and go to the social security office and get your social security card in a couple of weeks. And that is very helpful once you want to go for a better credit card or sign another lease. Like all of the stuff becomes very easy once you get your social security number. And I insist that you get it very early and keep it safe, please, because using that, a lot of scam happens. And we have a lot of other resources about SSN. So just go to this official webpage and you can find that. For medical care, people within the United States already know about like how to get their care, and it is a lot insurance dependent. Like in Bangladesh, I always used to pay out of pocket. Insurance was not much a thing there, but in here I felt everything is dependent on insurance, and as a vulnerable student, you'll be paying a lot of insurance fee premium as well, like about $3,500, I guess, per year. So the way it happens, if you get sick, I hope you will not, but if you feel like, if you feel unwell, what you have to do is first go to the student health center. So they have registered nurses and doctors. They'll check you up, and then if they seem like you need more care, then they'll refer you to a doctor. That way, the care that you get will be covered by insurance. But it is not the case if there is a health emergency for a student. In that case, they can directly go to a hospital, nearby hospital, if there is a health emergency, and that will be covered by insurance. But non-urgent cares are supposed to go through the student health center first, and they can kind of like do a lot of other services as well. Like we got flu shots there, COVID vaccines, all this stuff are covered there. And finally, if you figure everything else out, this is how you find your communities. But before we get into the Vanderbilt communities, I would like to mention that in Owen, we have a lot of clubs. Like for 180 students every year, we have 37 clubs and organizations inside Owen. So check these out, and then you can think about other clubs and organizations in AnchorLink. So AnchorLink is the portal where in Vanderbilt we have all the clubs, all the affinity organizations are there. For example, there are clubs for students from different regions, different religions, different interests. So majority of these clubs you'll find that are run by the undergraduate students because they are larger in number. And besides these affinity clubs, there are religious communities as well. So I have tried to find a list of churches here in Nashville from the Vanderbilt website, and you can reach out to Owen Christian Business Association for more, like where you can go to pray. For Muslims, there are at least 3 mosques in Vanderbilt. We call them ICNs, like Islamic Center Nashville. And there is a Friday prayer every in the Divinity School. Also, you can reach out to Vanderbilt MSA, that is very active. For Hindus, there is an organization called Vandikarma, and there are 2 temples there. For Jews, we have a Jewish Business Association here, and also in Divinity School, which is the religious school just beside Owen. So I have seen their weekly prayers happen. And for other faiths, there is Vanderbilt Center for Spiritual and Religious Life, and they can guide you there. And Owen is very much family-friendly organization, I would say. Like when I came in here with my wife, she wasn't a Vanderbilt student back then, but she was always invited to Owen. Every function at Owen we had, like every cultural functions and every weekly closing bells. And we have Owen Partners Associations as well. And finally, people who are coming from non-English speaking countries, their partners can get enrolled into free courses in Vanderbilt. So that is a great way to know other cultures as well and get a community. I know my wife took a course there. So that is Nashville for you guys. Welcome home.
Thank you, Mo. Really quickly, just based off of the community comments you were just making, I just put a link in the chat for you all. It's for the Vanderbilt Owen Admissions Fellows. So it's basically a web link with current students who are both in the first year and second year classes. And if you click on each person's headshot, it'll show you their hometown. So if you're looking for someone to connect with from either a similar hometown or country as you to get more specific feedback on any of the questions or concerns you have, you can reach out to those individuals directly, and then they'll be able to help schedule a time to speak with you. So just one more additional resource if you're looking to get a jump start on alleviating any concerns you might have, that's a great place to start. And more likely than not, they can connect you with other current students who might be in a similar situation as you or had experienced a similar concern before they moved to Nashville. But so as Mo mentioned, that concludes basically our presentation for you all. We have about 10 minutes left here. Really would just love to open it to questions. I know we covered a lot of content for you all. So if you'd like, you can either put a question in the chat, use the raised hand function, or just simply unmute yourself and ask a question. We are more than happy to help answer to the best of our abilities now. So I'll just turn it over to you guys for any questions we have. And Mo, it looks like we have one question in the chat. So social security number to international students, is there a specific date in which you get employed as orientation assistant, or can you do this process as early as you arrive in Nashville?
So usually they automatically do it, like enroll you as an orientation assistant. You don't have to apply for it. They know that you'll need it. And within a couple of weeks, all the documentations for you to apply for the SSN will be ready. So there is nothing to worry about. But if you get a mail that would you like to be an orientation assistant, then reply yes. That's all that you need to do. All right.
Weather in Nashville throughout the seasons. So I grew up in the Midwest portion of the United States, where basically it was very dramatic shifts between seasons. I would say Nashville reflects that to some degree, but it's more minimized. So winters, for instance, we might get like 1 or 2 days of snow, and then that's pretty much it. But then the sitting temperature will be anywhere from 20 degrees Fahrenheit to 45 degrees Fahrenheit. And that'll usually last from about mid-December through end of February. Right now, we're transitioning to spring. So we've had kind of a wild week last week where it would go from 55 degrees Fahrenheit and gray and cloudy outside on Monday. And then on Tuesday, it would be up to 80 degrees Fahrenheit and the sun is shining and it's a beautiful day. Now today we're at 70 degrees Fahrenheit and it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous weather. So it's like all the birds are coming out and the flowers are blooming. So it's just a beautiful time here right now. The summers, so basically when you get here in early August through pretty much the end of September, it's going to be hot. We get a lot of humidity here, so that makes it feel a lot hotter than maybe what the temperature reflects. So even if it's only 75 degrees Fahrenheit, but the sun is out and it's really humid, it can feel like it's 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So for me, that's also devastating on my hair because then it just gets all frizzy and unruly and it's just terrible. One other thing I would say, just as a pro tip for your first week of class, everyone loves to dress business professional. I can tell you, dress for the heat because every single time, and this happened to me, everyone walks to campus on the first day and you start off looking great. And by the time you get here, you're just like sweating profusely and trying to just like cool yourself off and make a good impression. So you'll have some of that to battle with when you first start. But yeah, so I'd say the weather fluctuates, but it's pretty much within its own controlled area. So it won't get too severely cold or too severely hot, but it'll transition from summer to fall to winter to spring. We do have all 4 seasons here.
Yonwul, so I would recommend you start looking for accommodation right after you get your I-20 and you have like reasonable belief to have that you'll get your visa. So because it took me about a couple of months to properly kind of like get my accommodation set, because at the very beginning I was emailing, applying online, didn't get any reply, but I got replies once I started calling them up. So it might depend. Like I know from Nigeria, we have a second year called, his name is Rinji. And I know when Rinji came into town, first from Nigeria, he didn't have a place to stay. He had to stay in a friend's house, then a hotel before he could move on to his apartment. And staying at a hotel might be expensive. So once you get your I-20 and your documents, start looking for housing immediately. How would you describe it? Well, so for me, I found community. Like Nashville seems like a very global city in here. And so people from all the cultures and all the countries, there is a community. So I didn't feel that bad. So just for the context, I have lived in Finland before. And in Finland, I always had to go out with the international student. I didn't have Bangladeshi community there that much. That wasn't vibrant, I would say. But in here, it's much more like we have a lot of people. For example, this is Ramadan season going on for us. And then every day we go to the mosque to have iftar. There's free food and everything. There is a community. So I didn't expect that, to be honest. So overall, I'd say I get my local foods here. I get my people here. And this is America at the same time. So it's really good, to be honest, I feel. But some things could be better, like the public transportation system could be better. Some customer service, government customer service are like every other parts of the world, could be better. But so far, I think I have adjusted and it's good. And this is a very growing city. and people come to visit the city, so which makes me feel good as well. Guys, I know we have rushed through a lot of slides, but this is recorded, so you can see this again, and this slide deck will be sent out to you, so you could use this later on, because it's okay if you don't remember anything from this slide. Any other questions? You guys are already admitted, so don't feel bad about asking anything, even if it's recorded. A lot of the students stay in Nashville, but mostly I have seen them go outside. It depends on the type of job they want. Like technology people, they go to California, that side, San Francisco, Seattle, that way. Finance people tend to go to New York and a lot of other places. So it depends on the job actually, but there are a lot of opportunities in Nashville as well. So a lot of the people also stay in Nashville.
Yeah, and I'd say we have a lot of pipelines that go out to New York, Chicago, Atlanta, to different cities throughout Texas. Anyone California based usually goes to San Francisco. I'm going to LA with one other classmate. Where Seattle people will go to. So it kind of just fluctuates based on the employer, but also given how hybrid work or remote work has kind of influenced the landscape of the traditional office work kind of position. Some people are taking jobs in a home office in one city, but they can live in another city. So for consultants, for instance, since they travel a lot anyways, they don't necessarily have to live in that home city where the office is based. They can just do their travel from work and live somewhere else, maybe closer to family or in a better tax state. And they're able to take advantage of that opportunity. So it really just depends on what your circumstances are. I would say overall, for people who moved here, not really planning on moving back to a specific location, a lot of them fall in love with Nashville, and so they decide to stay. And so maybe in their first year, they're thinking about moving to New York, but after doing an internship there, or maybe not liking the company as much, they'll return back for their second year and re-recruit and look for something here in Nashville, and that's quite common. So I'd say you get a good mix of both. It's not heavy leaning one way or the other. It's really just circumstantial for everybody if they want to stay or not. This is a good last question to end on, I think, here. So is there anything, or is there something that either of you would like to have known before you moved to Nashville? It's a good question.
I would start looking for accommodations earlier, and I would have brought less winter clothes.
That's a good one. I think for me, and this is going to sound really snobby, but the food scene, everyone raves about how good the food is here in Nashville. But I don't think it's as good as the hype. So I just like to temper expectations. It's still good, don't get me wrong. But restaurants and things like that, there's variety, but there's not quantity of variety. So you might find a couple of Thai places you like, but there's not a dozen of them to choose from. Or, like our chicken scene here is unreal. It's amazing, but you don't want to eat chicken all the time. So you want to like diversify your palate a little bit. And that can be, a little underwhelming in some situations, especially I moved here from California where they have amazing food and of all different varieties and cuisines. So I was really used to that. So I was a little let down when I got here. Not to say that it's all bad. It is very good, but it just manage your expectations so that you're not disappointed like I was. That's all. That's the only point I'm trying to get across. But I'd say that was the biggest one for me. But anyways, you guys have all been great. You had some great questions. As Mo mentioned, we'll send out this recording as well as the slide deck, which again, please refer back to those links embedded in each section. Those are very helpful and aimed at giving you a head start on just thinking about how to manage the transition to Nashville and into the life of an MBA student. But again, just want to say congrats to you all on not only getting admitted to the MBA here at Vanderbilt, but just taking this big step in your life to, transition your career and pivot to something new, or to just accelerate the career you're already in. It takes a lot of time and effort and dedication, and getting in here is, no small accomplishment. So I hope you all feel proud of yourselves for reaching this point, and we really look forward to welcoming you here at Owen in just a few short months. So thank you, everyone. Hope you have a great rest of your day wherever you're calling in from, and we wish you all the best. Take care.
See you, everyone, and I'll see you for the next year, in the next whole year. Feel free to reach us in Slack as well, and I've put my email address in here in the chat box. All right. See ya.